about Julian Assange.
Actress Jennifer Lawrence was among several stars.
Cyber Week 2016 presents Cyber in Motion.
Ladies and gentlemen, stick around because you don't want to miss this session, the Cybersecurity in Motion. This is perhaps our best session today because we're going to talk about that physical aspect of cybersecurity. You heard it here this morning and once again in this session right now, talking about critical infrastructure. Cybersecurity is no longer about information security. It's not about protecting your email passwords or your credit card information. It is about defending our physical, digital, connected way of life. And to do that, we have invited some of the leading security researchers and hackers who are now focusing their energies and efforts at finding out those vulnerabilities and problems with our new physical, connected way of life. We're talking about people who hack cars, drones, and airplanes as a hobby, just to show the world it could be made a safer place. And to take us through this incredible field, the Cybersecurity in Motion session, I'm honored and happy to invite one of my friends, a leading security researcher, Matan Scharf. Matan is a graduate of the Army Intelligence Technological Unit, as well as the IDF Mamram Software Engineering Program. He worked for years with Checkpoint, a leading Israeli industry innovator, as a security researcher, analyst, and as the leading head of their training and organizational development, contributing to Checkpoint's global coursework and educational programs. In his capacity as a consultant, Matan also delivered security design, implementation, and different security projects for banks, leading ISPs, and telecommunication companies all over the world. Matan is one of those hackers that likes pushing the boundaries, and the session that you're going to hear today is going to be all about that next generation of cybersecurity issues, the physical, digital, connected way of life, security in motion. Please help me by welcoming Matan to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. I don't need the podium right now. Hands up if you were here last year. Very good, very good. I see that we have a lot of people coming back and a lot of new faces. So for those of you who were here last year, you may recall that I was also chairing a seat last year and I just didn't show up. So Gili, I'm here. You can relax now. What I wanted to talk to you guys about today is about the latest trend in cybersecurity, and that is mobility. It's a subject that is very near to me, and Karen gave me the props, so I'll ride on her good words. And this is something that I've been dealing with in the past 2 years, and I want to share a few thoughts with you. Those of you who have heard my lectures before know I always say I wear many hats. One is here in the academia, another one is consultant and other things, but today I want to wear a different kind of hat. And today I want to wear my helmet, because we're going for a race and we're going to talk about some very interesting things that are happening in the field of mobility and cybersecurity in transportation. We have an amazing array of presenters today, which I'm honored to have here on stage. So I just want to say a few quick words and then I'll leave the stage to them. When we talk about transportation, I want to focus for a second about automotive industry. And the automotive industry in the past 100 and so years has changed dramatically. From an industry that was based primarily on mechanics, it shifted, it migrated into a hybrid mode where a vehicle, what we perceive as a vehicle, was not only mechanical but also electronic. And that was just the beginning. Because as the industry progressed in the 1980s and the 1990s, what we started seeing is more and more electronic components and more software entering the vehicle. But that wasn't the end. What we're talking about today is a true revolution in the field of automotive, and that is where a vehicle, or at least what we perceive as a vehicle, is becoming digital, is becoming something that we consume as a service. And that's very interesting because that drives the entire industry forward into a completely different way of thinking, and it's very possible that in the future when we will talk about a vehicle, a car, or any other form of transportation, we won't be talking about something that is physical. Yeah, it will have a component that is physical and that is mechanic, and some of it also electronic, but we will mostly be talking about a service. And this is a very important trend that is happening in the world that we need to understand, and that is the migration of the personal computing environment. The entire consumer electronic industry is changing from what it used to be based as a mainframe, and then personal computer, and then mobile computing, into vehicles becoming the new foundation or the new infrastructure for personal computing. Now, there are many different players in this field. A lot of them, by the way, are coming from here, from Israel, which is quite interesting considering the fact that Israel is not renowned for its huge and successful transportation industry, for those of you who are following. So it's very interesting to see that there are all these new players coming in and all of these non-standard competition companies that are playing in this field of transportation and bringing a lot of services, a lot of software-based services, some of them cloud services, some of them consumer services, into the world of transportation. And this is where things get really, really interesting, because if the industry is based on this type of innovation, and again I wrote here, no pun intended, but really the real question is, who's driving this revolution? Who's driving this new industry into these new realms? And of course the answer lies in the infrastructure. And in this case, infrastructure can be companies like Google, Samsung, LG, Apple, and yes, that spec in the middle, it's not a part of the template of my presentation. This is, anyone recognizes this logo? BlackBerry, very good. Did you remember BlackBerry? That amazing company that made phones with RIM, the secure messaging. Well, people from the States obviously know BlackBerry very well, but here in Israel it was not the most successful platform, and I think that somewhere they got left behind in the whole Apple and Android war, Google war. But when it comes to vehicles, BlackBerry is one of the strongest players. They have the operating system called QNX, which is basically the most popular operating system for vehicle infotainment systems. So all these companies are driving forward this revolution, changing the way we are going to perceive what a vehicle is and the way we consume transportation. Of course, with every major change, there's always going to be a trade-off. And the trade-off in this case is very obvious. We're trading functionality, comfort, price, and so on. And we are here in a cyber conference, so let's talk a little bit about cybersecurity. When it comes to cybersecurity, I think that everything I'm going to say and everything that the speakers are going to tell you today won't come as a shock to you, because this has come to be a given truth. Anything that is connected, everything that's running software can be hacked. So that's obvious. I want to point out two things. And again, I'm focusing on the automotive industry, but that's just one case study. It's true for any type of industry that deals with this sort of things, any IoT industry basically. So I want to point out two things, two flaws in the way that this trend is transpiring and how that relates to our world of cybersecurity. So the first thing I want to talk about is about physical access. We're talking about physical entities, as in cars, motorcycles, trucks, and so on. And some people have physical access. Some of these people are the mechanics that connect with a computer to the vehicle and they can do software updates. But it's also the driver. On the bottom, what is for you guys left, on the bottom left is an OBD device. A device that connects to an OBD port in the vehicle, mainly used for diagnostics, but this specific one was used to hack Corvette cars. Turn on and off the brakes, control basically the most critical systems in the vehicle. The picture on the bottom right for you is a picture from a Tesla vehicle where researchers were able to take apart the console, connect the wires, and basically be able to ignite the engine without the use of a key or any other form. And that's for physical access. Physical access, any hacker or any good hacker will tell you that if you have physical access to the resource, then basically you're not really hacking anything. So let's talk about something else. Radio frequency, RF. Radio frequency is the underlying technology behind applications that we know as Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and other forms of wireless communications. What I drew here, because this is academia, so we always have to have graphs, right? You have to have an academia graph. So what I drew here is a graph describing the correlation between the RF technology deployed and the potential for hacking a vehicle through one of its applications. So we have the distance and we have the application. And as you can imagine, the more sophisticated, and in a second I'll explain what I mean by sophisticated, the more sophisticated the application is, the higher the chances are that it's going to be hacked and the damage will be higher as well. So we're starting from really being very close to the vehicle, not necessarily having physical access, but being very in high proximity. So we have things like the tire pressure that has an RF antenna that is able to communicate with the vehicle, so that was hacked. We have the smart key applications where you have a mobile device that you can unlock the vehicle with an application and do other things like turn on the AC. So all of these are, you have to be within 5 meters, around 12 feet. If you go a little bit further than that, you have applications like Bluetooth pairing. Anyone can get into a vehicle today, pair your mobile device with the infotainment system, and then you can get your phone calls, share your contacts, and do other things. Of course, Bluetooth as a layer is secured, but applications that are using Bluetooth can be hacked. If we go further, we have Wi-Fi and then RDS. RDS is that technology that allows the vehicle's infotainment system to show you which song is playing on the radio and things like that. So that takes us to 100 meters, and if we take it all the way to fully connected vehicles, which means vehicles that have a GSM model, which is basically turning it into a smartphone, you can hack a vehicle basically from anywhere in the world. And that was demonstrated in the very famous Jeep hack, the Cherokee Jeep hack, that was demonstrated by 2 researchers where they were basically able to connect to the vehicle from anywhere in the US, and from the comfort of their home. They didn't do it from their home, but they might as well have been in the comfort of their home. They could hack the vehicle, control all of the systems, including the steering wheel, including the brakes and everything. And this is really the point when we're talking about cybersecurity in vehicles, and that is that, this is the Jeep that was hacked, by the way, and that is that essentially we're talking about a system that was designed to allow for cyber functionality, cyber features, but not to accommodate security necessarily. And this is really the essence of what cyber is. I mean, the joke around this hall is that everything we say is cyber. But really, that's the essence. That's the essence of what cyber is. It's understanding this trade-off between functionality and the risk. And for me, that means understanding the interface in this case between a vehicle and its connectivity, the person and the vehicle, and so on. So those were just a few thoughts from my side, but I know that you guys didn't come to hear me talk. So I want to step